Hello and welcome to the first episode of the CK3 Rome series. And in this series, we're going to go not just form Rome, but we're going to start with a custom character. And this custom character will be, at first, an adventurer. Now, he's going to be pretty normal. Originally, I think in the stream that I did a while ago, I kind of previewed what I was going to do. He was Hellenic, but this time he's just going to be Orthodox. And his culture is obviously going to be Roman. We're going to make the family dynasty flag Roman as well. And with that, we have our first character, Gaius Junius of the Roman Partridges. And the sort of role play, and sorry, I forgot to record my mouse for this whole series, I think, so sorry about that. But the role play of this is that we're going to try to be kind of like a soldier. That's why we're going down valor for our lifestyle and stuff like that. And so we're going to try to start off as kind of a roving band that sort of loosely aligns itself with the Byzantines. So we're sort of part of the Byzantines army-wise. And we will actually participate in some small conquests by some of the Byzantine vassals. And so, to kind of roleplay that as best we can, is we decided to do soldiers for hire, as you can see before. And we're going to try to get some men-at-arms. But as you can see, it's going to cost us a little bit. So we got to make some money first. And a pretty easy way to make money as a traveler in CK3 is, well, a fast way. Not necessarily like it's going to make you a whole lot, but doing boundary disputes, because if you're able to take on enough stress, you can just get the money instantly, not have to leave anybody there or anything. And for us, that is enough, because that will give us enough to get some men-at-arms and some other stuff. And this thief tried to steal our stuff, so I think we just had him join us. And a lot of this I'm just letting be seen, because you won't really see a lot of these events later on in the series, because like it gets repetitive. So we're going to visit Castle Holding, check out the main square of Constantinople. And we're just trying to look for some recruits, since we only start off with like 3 followers or something, I think. And so we spend some of that money that we got from setting a boundary dispute on trying to get more people. I think we wait a while to get troops, though, whenever we get a favor. And so now that settles our business in the town hall, I mean not town halls, town center, whatever, of Constantinople. So we're just trying to look for some work, and obviously there's criminal work, but that wouldn't really make sense for what we're trying to do. So I'm going to move over to this guy's land in Strymon. I don't know. I don't speak Greek, sorry. We visit the castle holding, just trying to get like a job and stuff at the town crier. And so now we can keep making some money to, you know, keep getting our goal. So we're going to do some hired muscle stuff for a bit, which is not really much to say. It's just a basic scheme set up for these jobs where you just select characters to do tasks, and then you just wait. That's pretty much it. So there's not much to comment on a lot of the work in adventuring in CK3, but it is kind of fun. It kind of gets boring after like 2 lives or so, but you know, it is what it is. So we've got to make our way up. That's the whole goal of this. Start at the bottom, get our way up. So yeah, and now we have done that contract. We got some money. We've also got our first martial lifestyle work, and I went down Bellum Justum, and we're going to try and go down that path because we will be fighting with this first character. We won't be taking land, but we will be fighting in wars. And in fact, because we did a job for this guy, we can ask for men-at-arms from him. And he actually obliges, and he didn't even give us a bad men-at-arms. We got armored footmen from that. And so we just spent some of our gold to restore, to actually upgrade them in size and, you know, replenish our forces. And so now we just work for a bit. And there's this martial contest. And we actually win, which gives us a little bit more money, which is why I included. And that is the second job out of the way. And now with that extra money, we have increased the size of our footmen. So we have like 300 troops now. And another duel, and we actually won the fight again, because I believe our character has some decent prowess and stuff. And now it is time to actually construct some buildings in our encampment so that we can get more members, since we're still pretty low in members, and just get some bonuses to our troops later on with the buildings. So first we build the roaring fire, just to mainly get new followers. And we're also going to take this contract, which is our first war contract, your first war in the game, and it'll be pretty easy because we're dealing with very low troop counts, and nearly all of our troops are men-at-arms, and the enemy's troops are mainly just going to be levies. So that's kind of how a lot of these beginning wars will go. They won't be very big ones, and they won't be very hard ones either. And as you can see, like I said, not very big numbers, so that makes these wars pretty easy as long as we maneuver our troops right. And so I joined, and of course we gotta raise our army, and of course our first character is going to be the leader of our small band of troops, and so we gotta head up north to go and help in that war. So now with these guys here, it mainly help defend our allies, but getting in this battle will also give us enough work and contribution to actually get paid from this war. And honestly, stand with us contracts are surprisingly not that well paying in this game for some reason. And that was our first battle, which we won pretty easily, just due to the fact that our entire army is men-at-arms and theirs is not. But all we can really do at the moment, though, is get into battles. We really just have to rely on our allies to do other sieges and stuff like that. But eventually we win, and we're able to disband all and take some money from the war. And so I requested some more men-at-arms from the same guy, and he gave us the same kind of unit again. So we have 2 armored footmen, and I never really, I think, end up deleting one of those. I think I just keep the armored footmen for the entire playthrough, so those guys will be with us for the whole playthrough. But I also noticed this button, offer military assistance, and this was basically one of my first times playing adventure, so I didn't really know about it, and it was my first time playing as a mercenary adventurer in CK3. So I didn't know that you could just join wars for fun if the AI needed help. That did put out a contract, but yeah. And there was a little bit of a wrestling thing in our camp, and I won that, so that was pretty good. Which will have some pretty big issues with prestige later on, but we joined the war, and this is actually a conquest war, so this is an expansion of the Byzantine Empire under the Duke in Thessalonica. So we're gonna have to go to Crete. And I kind of just derp around. I don't really know what to do with my troops for a while because I haven't fully reinforced them. And just the fact that we are at war with Crete specifically makes it kind of difficult to land and do all that stuff, or at least so I thought. I thought I would get absolutely defeated as soon as I landed just because of the recently disembarked debuff, but for some reason the enemy's troops were on the complete opposite side of the island, and only really started moving once I was basically already landed. So this battle is actually going to be winnable. And actually, the recently disembarked debuff tricked the AI into sending their troops in, and we recovered before we finished that, so we get an easy defensive victory in the mountains of Crete. And also, we technically have enough troops to, I think, do some sieges around here. Well, I actually ended up not having enough troops to do sieges around there, and so we waited for our allies to land on the island and help us with a siege. But I did stay there for a while to, I don't know, just keep the AI from defending their city. And after a while, we win the siege, and our ally in the Byzantine Empire takes some land on Crete. So we've already helped out the Byzantines a little bit more indirectly, because we weren't like serving the emperor, but we were still serving somebody powerful in the Byzantine Empire. And with the money we got from war, we of course expanded our men-at-arms even more. And another plus of joining wars and doing mercenary work in CK3 is the fact that you get prisoners whenever you do sieges, so you get some money out of it that isn't from contracts and stuff. Sometimes you get prisoners, not always necessarily, but you know. But now we're going to do some regular work for a while we wait for another conflict that looks favorable to us. After just one job where we made a little bit of money and used some of it to refill our troops with that hired muscle job that should have been on screen earlier, there is another war that we can join for some mercenary work. And a lot of our work is going to be in Bulgaria, because Bulgaria in this early part of the campaign is going to go through quite a collapse. So there's going to be a lot of like opportunities to do stuff there. So Bulgaria is going to be pretty important in this campaign, and even in the early game it is important. So we first just try to start some sieges, or at least start a siege so that the enemy will send troops towards us, and the enemy just doesn't really fight back against our siege. So we just kind of just sit there for a while. And now finally our siege in this war has finished, and it doesn't really do much for the war score. But, you know, we did something. So now it is time to really just try to go for the enemy capital, but we have to take a weird route to the enemy capital. Since we just went straight there, we would take attrition, and the attrition is like a base of 100 deaths that you take. So you can't really take that in the early game because you don't have that many troops. But we're meeting them in the city, where it kind of looks like it'll be even, but yeah, we outnumber them by a lot. So even with it being a defensive battle and them being in a fort, they just had too few troops, too low of quality to deal with us. And so even though we didn't really catch them at the capital, we're still going to go for their capital in order to try to win this war pretty fast. But again, just like the war in Crete, we don't have enough troops to siege by ourselves. So we kind of just wait for our ally to do something, which in this case is help us siege. And even after taking their capital, we're still not over, so we've got to siege some more. And after that siege, we win the war, and of course get our payment. And I kind of look at the ability to maybe make an arranged marriage with some of the people we need a contract with, because we need an heir eventually to take over the camp, because obviously if you die without an heir, the game is just over. So yeah. And so after the war, we go back to the town, and we just go to the town crier and look for some jobs and do some other stuff in the main square. And we're just going to be forced to do yet another hired muscle job because there's not really that much variety, at least in the options that we're getting right now for martial jobs. I think every martial job we've done so far, this video has been hired muscle. It's really boring. Like, the concept and stuff is cool, but yeah, it's basically just watching a loading bar. And yeah, two of our followers got into a fight and one of them killed each other. So that's something that just kind of happens in the early game, which isn't great to deal with. One of the courtiers of the our boss decides to want to join our camp, so we let her join, and now we finally have a wife in the game because for some reason as camp leader you can just do that. So we finally kind of got an heir secured, probably. And so what probably would have been just a usual job has turned into a pretty decent gain for us in that we're finally going to start actually building the dynasty out. And after doing like 2 contracts, we finally have a pregnancy. So yeah, the dynasty will be built pretty soon. Which honestly, I wish whenever you started, this is a little bit of a tangent, but I wish whenever you made a custom character, a custom dynasty, that you could maybe start out with like parents or siblings or something, but it seems like you basically have no real option for that, and so you always just start out with like one person. And now with the extra money we have from doing those contracts, we expand our army yet again with some light horsemen. I mainly like to get light horsemen and just other horsemen in general in CK3 because of their pursuit. And pursuit is basically how many troops can that unit kill whenever the enemy is retreating. So that's pretty good for doing like stack wipes and stuff. So that's why I like it. And now there is a war down in Egypt. And I actually want to talk about the original plan I actually had for this campaign, which was actually to go down to Egypt and make an independent Roman kingdom in Egypt after being an adventurer for a while. But plans change because the Egyptians, even though they're pretty weak right now in the game, they get way stronger later on, and it kind of becomes impossible to defeat them just as a roving band. So we end up settling elsewhere, but I won't say where because that's not relevant to this video. It is not the part where we settle down yet. But yeah, we join this war against Egypt on the same guy that we fought the other military assistance wars with, the Duke in Thessalonica. I just don't know if I'm saying Strymon right, so I'll just say Thessalonica because that's basically what it is. So we join his war for a part of Egypt, and this is yet another just kind of fun thing where we can help the Byzantines out. So really, in this first episode, the Byzantines are doing really well. And we're definitely helping them by doing all these sieges and stuff. But it's really just a waiting game in this war because they are severely outnumbered. And so that war is over. We disband our armies and take that money. And with the money that we got, we're going to do our first hunt. And we successfully hunt the row. And honestly, hunts are always worth it in CK3 to go on. Well, usually, because it's prestige. You're basically paying, you get money for prestige. So, yeah. And we get an artifact sometimes, so, you know, that's also nice. And that artifact gives prestige itself. But we need some money, so we're going to sell some of one of our artifacts for a small amount, but not the row antler that we got And we're going to start doing a seduction because I think that increases the fertility, I mean. So that means you can get more. CK3 is really weird in that you have to worry about like fertility and that kind of stuff, but you know, whatever. Hey everyone, I am back. You know, for you guys, no time passed at all, but for me, an entire work shift and a failed recording of this audio went off because I forgot to hit the record button for 30 minutes. So that's awesome, but our character finally has an heir, so the succession is sort of secured, although with one child, you know, some problems could happen. Sorry if I sound like a little fed up, but you know, I thought I was getting out of this warm recording area, and then I checked and saw that I forgot to record, so that's awesome. But yeah, I need to bring myself back time. So yeah, we're still in Thessalonica. We're building the proving grounds for the bonuses to our troops from that. We're still doing contracts everywhere just to get as much money as possible, and those are just, it's the same thing over and over for the most part. Of course, whenever you get like stand with us and stuff like that, it's a little bit different because, you know, you're fighting a war. But in this case, it's just sit there, wait for the scheme phase to get to like 10 or something, and then you can execute with confidence and get paid. And of course, I start educating my child because, you know, that's important. Gives them a little bit of a stat boost when they become an adult, and since that is our heir, we're going to be playing as them, so it's pretty important for him to have good stats. I need to lose a duel. Awesome. And we use, honestly, I'm just going to do a little rundown of this. If I haven't already in the other recording, I don't think I did. But for a while, like if there's just a huge leap in time in the game, that is probably just me cutting out a lot of the contracts that I do just because they're so boring. Also, Second Son, they're just so boring. This one isn't really, though. This is a combat contract, or hunt the criminal contract, where we literally just hunt a criminal, and I usually like to deal with these by fighting the criminal myself. I mean, if I can win, you know. If my prowess is too low, you know, I'll do another option. But in this case, our character is a martial character, so he's got good prowess. But back to that rundown I was talking about. If there's a big leap of time, it's me doing contracts that I feel are too boring to just show repeatedly. You know, you could have like 30 minutes of that, just probably in the footage that I use just for this video. And that's just, you don't want to watch that. So that's why there might be huge leaps in time. And also what we're doing, the reason why we're doing so many contracts is we're just building up the camp, and we're building up the our camp's army to, you know, eventually conquer some land somewhere. And now we start hosting another hunt, and the reason that I am hosting so many hunts, not so many, but this is our second hunt in the game, is because I'm trying to get prestige. And the reason I'm trying to get prestige is because at this point in the campaign, I had the idea of invading Egypt and making a Roman kingdom there. I might have already said this, but that was still my idea at the time, and so that's why I was trying to do hunts and stuff, because I was trying to get my prestige up so that we could do a kingdom invasion. But basically, Egypt becomes too powerful too quickly, and we're not able to do like a kingdom invasion on them because we'd probably lose. But for right now, my actions are basically justified by the fact that that's what I thought I was doing. And that's why also that we're moving to Crete, because my idea was that we were going to go from Crete to Egypt right after. And we get this awesome escort contract. You know, they're really easy to do. They get you a decent chunk of money in the game, so it's pretty good. But something pretty bad happens during this trip because we're going through the ocean. And if you played CK3 enough, you probably know what I'm talking about. Yeah, stormy weather. Great event. Usually somebody dies when that happens. And in this case, it's one of our children, which sucks, but not our heir. So I guess it's okay, sort of. But we still do the contract, get our payment and everything. But it just kind of sucks to lose a possible heir, you know, if the other kid were to die. That's not foreshadowing, by the way. Yeah, just want to make that clear. And now we get our next mercenary war, and this is to help the Bulgarian king with northern invaders, aka the Vikings. And even after we get to the mainland, we have to take a pretty long trek up the Bulgarian territory to get to where the actual conflict is happening. But we finally get there, and this is my little explanation of what we kind of do in this war. Is we're not able to fight them by ourselves without our allies, really. So we kind of just follow them and retake territory behind them. Because just like you probably saw a few seconds ago, we have pretty bad chances of winning a battle against their full army. But we do get strategists in this war, which is good, because the better marshal you have, the better your troops are and everything. But eventually I get pretty tired of sieging behind them, so I take advantage of the first opportunity I get to fight a smaller amount of their forces, but it doesn't really go well in the beginning. We start losing the battle, but thankfully, us getting engaged in a battle activates the AI and they send over their troops. So even with the Nords reinforcing with the rest of their army, this just spells doom for them, because the Bulgarians at this point in the game were actually pretty powerful, maybe even on par with the Byzantines at this point. And so of course we win the war, and it's now time for our payment. But we only get like half of what we were owed, because the Bulgarian king is somehow broke despite having all of that territory. And I guess I can use this as sort of an excuse to interject this into the story, where maybe that first time we got ripped off by the Bulgarians was when relations started to sour with them, and why we would do some stuff that we do later on. I'm not going to spoil it, but yeah. But also we get involved in a war for some more territory in Egypt, so we go for it, because at this point my plan was to invade Egypt. So we help one of the Roman, I think they're governors is what they're called. I've been calling them dukes, but they're governors of their provinces. We help them invade Sirte, which is sort of in Egypt. I mean, in modern day it's in Libya, so I guess it's more like Libya, but it's right next to Egypt, you know. But we win. It's pretty easy. But then I notice, hey, the Byzantines lost their other foothold in Egypt / Libya. So they basically just did a 1-for-1 trade and didn't really gain anything or lose anything, but yeah. And also some of that money that we've been making from all these contracts I've used to upgrade the roaring campfire that you should have seen a few seconds ago. So yeah. And this is the point that I also kind of give up on my Egypt idea, because Egypt actually starts becoming too powerful for me to invade, and so I just moved to Italy to try and get some more jobs to build up our money, and well, more build up our camp by getting money and spending money on the camp, you know. And so we just kind of sit here for a while and do easy contracts like hired muscle and stuff like that. And I just want to go on a little bit of a rant about escort contracts. I keep saying missions. Escort contracts in CK3, they're so broken compared to the other contracts. You literally just travel to one place and then you go back, and you make like the same amount, if not more. The only thing is that sometimes the travel is like super far. But that's pretty rare. Like even like a mid-distance contract I feel like is pretty well worth doing compared to doing hired muscle or some other contract. But yeah, escort contracts or transport contracts, I guess is what they're actually called. They're a little too powerful, in my opinion. You can bankrupt entire nations with that. It's kind of stupid. I'm not gonna lie, it's a little goofy, but I don't know what else they can really do. They can't really debuff it, but it just seems like maybe the AI should have a little bit more of a reason to do transport contracts, because I think it just makes up a reason. So, I mean, literally the whole thing is that you're just extracting wealth from the AI because you're a player, and you get to do that, which feels a little bit like it's favoring the player too much and maybe making it too easy to be an adventurer. That's my rant on escort missions. And my wife dies during an escort mission, so we have to remarry in game. And instead of improving my siege ability by getting the onagers as my next men-at-arms, I actually do bowmen, because my idea is more to have a combat focused army whenever I am as an adventurer, just because I feel like battles are far more important in wars whenever you're an adventurer, because oftentimes you don't have enough troops to actually do sieges. And even whenever you do, it takes a ridiculously long amount of time. And I know onagers would help with that, but if you have onagers, you have a much higher chance of losing battles too. So that's my explanation. And now we get hired as mercenaries to help out in an Italian war. I think it was between one of the Christian states and the Islamic states at it in a holy war. So we help the Christian side conquer some land, because I feel like that makes sense for roleplay purposes, because we're a Byzantine and they're Orthodox Christian. So yeah, we defeat them in Salerno, as was just shown on screen while I was yapping. And after that, we go and help siege down the enemy capital. And with that, the war is pretty much over. The AI is able to win it. I think we actually won it, but whatever, doesn't matter. We win the war, we get our payment in full, and then we get yet another mercenary contract. But this one isn't really all that interesting. It's basically just the same thing that you watched, but in Balkans. So, yeah, we'll kind of just skip that. And so we finally finished this war. It actually took quite a bit, because it's a mountain fort that is the enemy capital. So it took quite a bit to siege it down, since we weren't really able to rely on allies to do that. But we captured the enemy's king whenever we won siege. But then we got cancer. So yeah, that's gonna happen. You get cancer in CK3, you're gonna die from it. Just like in real life, pretty much. I mean, not everybody dies from cancer, you know, there's remission and everything, but this is a video game, so. But I try to kind of prepare for my character's inevitable death from cancer by trying to build up my prestige and other stuff, because maybe I'm under a false impression with this, but I believe like prestige and stuff like that, a small amount of it always gets passed down. That's what I thought. So if I'm wrong, well, you're gonna probably see it, that error pop up a few times again. But oh, and this is the moment, we're on our way back from a transport mission that I was doing, because I was trying to build up my gold, because that 100% does get carried on to the next character, so you do have to build that up, and so do any upgrades you do. But I figured out, oh, I have a bunch of prisoners from that war in the Balkans that I completely forgot about, and so I demand their conversion and recruit them to my camp. And the reason I'm just recruiting these randos is because this is my own philosophy in CK3, where I think the more characters that you have in your court, the more options you have for the court positions and stuff, and so you have probably a better chance of getting some good bonuses from those court positions, because you'll have better characters, theoretically, because you have more, so you have a higher chance of getting those better characters. That's my idea with it. Also, we do a bunch of escort missions, just like the one that we were doing whenever we found out we had a bunch of prisoners. And so, yeah. And so, I think while I was planning to do a contract, my character died of cancer, and so the next character is left with, you know, all of his wealth and stuff. But Gaius Junius, our first character, he's an adventurer. He never got landed, but he did a lot for the next few adventures, in that he basically laid the foundations for our army, you know, being involved in the local politics militarily is what Gaius Junius set up. And that's my little conclusion. I'll do my little outro here while the footage is still playing, but if it goes over, it'll just be a black screen that says thank you for watching. But by the way, thank you for watching. I hope you had a good time watching this video, and if you didn't, well, sorry. But if you did, please leave a like, and if you really like this and want to see more, subscribe, and if you want to tell me something, leave a comment, and yeah, I will see you all later. Bye-bye.